to Gender Perspectives, the platform, where we delve into the critical issues shaping gender around the world. Now, in today's episode, we're turning our focus to a deeply sensitive and often overlooked topic, which is widowhood. Yes. Now, across many cultures, the experience of widowhood is not just marked by personal loss, but also by things like social stigma, economic marginalization, and harmful traditional practices. For millions of widowed women globally, becoming a widow can mean losing not just a partner, but also property rights, social status, personal freedom, and even basic dignity. So stay with us as we delve into this right after the break.
The way we see the world shapes the way we change it. Gender isn't just a checkbox, it's a lens. One that helps us understand the world more deeply and act more fairly. Gender Perspectives, a program for those ready to see more, do more, and be more. Designed to challenge assumptions, ignite conversations, and build inclusive solutions across every sector of society.
We are not, fighting the men. We are not saying we are equal in terms of rights. We're only asking they should recognize our existence.
Join us on Gender Perspectives, showing every Saturday by 4 p.m. Repeat every Wednesdays by 5 p.m. and Thursdays by 3 p.m. Change begins with perspective. Let's widen yours.
Now, to fully understand, the challenges faced by widows, it is important to examine the historical, cultural, and legal context that shape their experiences. Now, widowhood, while, a personal and emotional transition, often becomes a site of systemic discrimination, especially in societies where, a woman's identity and rights are tied to her marital status. Globally, over 250 million women are widowed, and nearly 1 in 10 lives in extreme poverty. In many regions, widows are subjected to harmful practices such as disinheritance, forced evictions, degrading mourning rituals, and even accusations of witchcraft. And these violations are not only rooted in patriarchal traditions, but they are often reinforced by weak legal protections and societal silence. So now, let's listen to the background report for more information on this.
Widowhood is the state of a person, either a man or a woman, whose spouse has died. It specifically refers to the period of time after a spouse's death where the surviving partner does not remarry. Widowhood is a life stage characterized by grief, loss, and potential social, economic, and psychological challenges. Widowhood is one of the most overlooked yet deeply impactful conditions affecting millions of women around the world. For many, the death of a spouse is not only a time of mourning but also the beginning of discrimination, exploitation, and isolation. While widowhood affects both genders, its consequences are far more severe for women due to long-standing cultural, social, and legal inequalities. The urgent need to address harmful widowhood practices and advocate for widows' rights is a critical but underexplored dimension of global gender equality. Globally, over 258 million women are widows, with millions living in poverty or extreme social marginalization. Widowhood often strips women of their rights, autonomy, and identity. In many societies, particularly in parts of South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, widows are subjected to harmful traditional practices and discriminatory laws. These include being forcibly evicted from their homes, denied inheritance, and even accused of witchcraft. In some communities, widows are forced to undergo degrading mourning rituals such as head shaving, ritual cleansing, confinement, or being compelled to marry a male relative, practices rooted more in control than in custom. This form of systemic abuse not only violates women's dignity but also undermines their economic and social security. Disinheritance is particularly devastating, as many widows are left without land or assets, making it nearly impossible to provide for themselves or their children. With limited access to education or employment, widows often fall into cycles of poverty and dependence. Their children, too, suffer, facing reduced access to schooling, malnutrition, and increased vulnerability to exploitation. The psychological toll of widowhood cannot be ignored. Isolation, grief, social stigma, and trauma from ritual abuse leave many widows struggling with depression and mental health issues. In some regions, widows are excluded from community events, considered unclean, or silenced by societal norms that blame them for their husband's death. These injustices are rarely addressed in legal systems that prioritize male lineage and property rights over women's well-being. To challenge these injustices, we must take a multifaceted approach. Legal reform is essential. Governments must abolish discriminatory inheritance laws and enforce protections for widows through constitutional and legal means. Ratifying international human rights treaties like the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, is a vital step. Beyond laws, education and community advocacy are needed to shift the harmful cultural norms that normalize widow abuse. Engaging traditional and religious leaders, promoting positive media narratives, and supporting grassroots women's organizations are all effective ways to drive cultural change. Economic empowerment is equally critical. Widows need access to credit, land, vocational training, and decent work. Social protection systems such as pensions and housing support can provide stability and restore dignity. Legal aid, counseling, and safe shelters for widows at risk must be made more widely available. At the international level, efforts like the UN's recognition of June 23 as International Widows' Day and the advocacy of civil society organizations such as the Lumba Foundation and Widows for Peace Through Democracy have helped bring global attention to the issue. Still, more coordinated action is needed to ensure that widows are included in global development goals, especially within the frameworks of SDG 5, gender equality, and SDG 10, reduced inequalities. Widowhood must no longer be a hidden chapter in the lives of women or a blind spot in global gender advocacy. Addressing the injustices widows face is not only a matter of human rights but also a necessity for building fair, inclusive societies. By challenging harmful practices and advancing widows' rights, we affirm the dignity, strength, and equality of all women, in life, in death, and beyond.
Get plugged into the heartbeat of entertainment on The Hub, your ultimate show on eVibes. From trending stories and social media drama to top charting music, must-watch movies and exciting moments from the world of arts, we've got it all. Join us for unmissable conversations with your favorite entertainment personalities, plus fun segments every week.
I should try harder. So,
Okay, I don't know that one.
outfit of the day.
Oh, I don't do that.
No.
That's some Gen Z stuff.
Oh, now you say it's a Gen Z stuff.
It's everything you love about entertainment, served fresh every week at 1 p.m. with weekend repeats just in case you missed it. The Hub's on eVibes, where the vibes never stop. Only on Signature TV.
Welcome back. Now, as we continue our conversation on widowhood and women's rights, we now turn to those who are actively working to challenge the status quo, advocates, researchers, and change makers who are speaking out against these harmful practices and pushing for justice. And today, we're joined by a guest who will bring critical perspective on the social, legal, and cultural dimensions of widowhood. Someone who stands in solidarity with widows and, is committed to raising awareness and changing mindset. Her name is Kate Obodekwe Izvora. She's the Executive Director, K Visceral Hope for the Hopeless Widows Foundation. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
How are you today?
I'm good, and you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you.
So now we're talking on widowhood, right? When people hear widow, the first thing that comes to mind is someone who has lost their spouse. But aside that, what else would you say that a widow is, behind, just losing a spouse?
Well, when we talk about widowhood, it's not just like you said, it's not all about someone who just lost a husband. It's equally about someone who is disinherited, who faces all manner of harmful traditional practices, So these are what we call widowhood. And sometimes even a single mother without a husband is equally termed a widow because she seems to pass through all the things that someone who lost her partner passes through.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but why do you think that in most conversations, the topic is not particularly, being discussed as much when we're talking about issues around gender and the likes? You rarely hear people talk about widows as part of the conversation, or the harmful practices and the things involved with widowhood or being a widow.
Well, I think the reason is because they kind of overlook widows.
Yes.
Yeah, they don't see them as being important because there is nobody to speak for them. That's why we have advocates who, advocate for widows and stuff like that. Come to think of it, when you talk about let me say, when we have women, gender and women affairs. And, you know, when they talk about women, you will think that they also include widows. In actual sense, they don't. So just like I was discussing, yeah, of course, because most times the rights that are supposed to come to the widows don't actually get to them. You know, they stop midway. Uh-huh.
Yes.
So if actually they can somehow have something like commissioner for widows affairs, I think it would be best. Yes.
Wow.
It sounds funny, but honestly, that is the best thing to do, you know, because they don't give widows what is supposed to be given to them. Not just in the society, in churches, everywhere, widows are being neglected. They are not being remembered.
Yes. So now, speaking of neglect, now let's go into what widows face. Now, from the moment the person loses their husband, what happens to them? Just tell us, take us through that entire process.
A whole lot happens to them because one, they will start with accusing the woman that she killed the husband, even when they know that probably the husband was sick before he died. They will start with accusations, slandering, and all manner of things, you know. So they will even go to the extent of telling the woman that she will sleep with the corpse, they will bat the corpse, and she will drink the water. I imagine when someone drinks a dirty water, what happens to the person? Definitely the person will, you know, be sick. Not to talk of when someone drinks a water that comes from bathing somewhere, a dead person that they used chemicals to, you know, preserve. Definitely something may go wrong. In fact, a lot may die in the process. And they will tell me that, yes, it's the spirit of the man that killed the woman.
Yeah.
So, and not just that, you know, some of the husband's family members will know that actually is the woman, maybe the breadwinner of that family. At the end of the day, they want to collect the property from the woman, knowing fully well that they have children, and at the end of the day, they want to collect the property, the land, and so on from the woman. And the worst part of it is, again, is that the woman will be isolated. The woman will go through a mental and emotional trauma, and she will wear that her mourning clothes for like, okay, to the glory of God, that reduced it from a year to 6 months and 6 months to 3 months now. But she will wear it and go nowhere. So, and the community, the Igwes, the Omuandas, and so on, they're not doing anything about it. That's the worst part, or the most painful aspect, because if they can really do something about it, it will really help the widows.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I find it strange. Do they still make widows to drink the water?
Of course, they still
up
do.
till now.
Yeah.
Like in this modern.
Of course, they do.
Okay, what about things like shaving of head and all of that?
Yeah, of course, they still do that.
But what exactly is the idea behind all of this?
Well, according to some people, they will say that the shaving of the hair is to, you know, give respect to the late husband. Of course, I've not seen any kind of respect that shaving of the hair will give to the late husband. Yeah. And some will say it's tradition and so on. I don't see any rationale between a woman shaving off her hair because she lost her husband. Because it will not either add any value to the dead or to the living. So I don't see it as any, you know, a good idea at all. Then telling the woman to, you know, sleep beside the corpse, what is the essence? It will not bring back the dead. Then why doing that?
Yeah.
You know,
so at the end of the day, in your opinion, there's really no tangible reason behind this.
There is none at all. So, to the best of my knowledge.
What would you then call it? Would you call it wickedness, or would you what exactly would you say is now the reason that they allow things like this to happen?
Well, first I would think that their thinking and reasoning is backward to start with, And most of them capitalize on that to wicked the woman, that lost the husband. Instead of trying to, make the person to, feel at home, stop feeling pains of losing the husband, that adding more pains to her. So it's wickedness. Yeah.
All right. So now I want to go a bit personal. Do you have any experience? Because you mentioned earlier that you are a widow as well.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know, what was your experience like?
My experience wasn't an easy one, though. Yeah, of course, because I know I lost my husband at the very tender age of 29, and with little kids. And actually, when I lost my husband, my husband's only brother then, you can imagine someone who just lost a husband, say that I have to carry the corpse of my late husband down to the village all by myself, and it wasn't easy. And so many other things that came up, collecting the properties and stuff like that. So, and then no one to speak for me, So it wasn't an easy experience at all. But to the glory of God and prayers and so on, I was so resilient. And to the glory of God, those same people today are now friendly.
That's how it always turns out, in the end. Yes.
That I really suffered, taking care of my kids all by myself, and then when I lost him, I had no job, nothing, just nothing. So I was, struggling.
Yes, it was really tough.
Yeah, really tough. So I did all manner of things except to steal and prostitute. But then, I saw pure water, all those, just name it. I suffered. But I thank God that today I was able to stand on my feet.
Yes, and you have a foundation where you help widows as well.
Of course.
Now, I'd like to know, aside from your personal experience, your interaction with these widows, is there any particular person's story that got to you or that struck you that you'd like to share?
Yeah, like one of my widows, she actually passed through a lot from her husband's family. At a point, they almost took her children away from her. They chased her out of the family and stuff like that. But she became resilient. She was also resilient. She didn't remarry. And to the glory of God, those children that we are taken away from her, we got back. Yes, we got back the children for her. Yes, we got back the children. And I thank God that today, through the skills acquisitions that we give to widows and so on, she was able to learn how to do a lot of skills and which can now put food on the table for her. Yeah. But they actually collected her properties, which at the end of the day, we are still gotten back. So they left her with nothing. She almost, fell into depression. And when a widow or someone falls into depression, the next thing that will come to the person's mind is to take his or her life. So I thank God that she was not able to do that, that we were there for her. Yeah.
So how is the process of getting these properties back? Because when the man's family takes everything away, and just like you mentioned, someone does not have maybe she doesn't have what she's doing, what's the process like, reclaiming back all those properties to be able to stabilize the person?
Yeah, that's why we have a Ministry of Gender Affairs.
Okay.
Then as a foundation, KV Craft Foundation, we are registered with them. We have legal practitioners who are backing us up. So in times like that, we fall back to them. We meet them, we advocate, so that they were the people that always help us out to make sure that those things are being given back to the widow. Yeah.
So aside from, you've mentioned a lot of harmful practices that widows go through. You've spoken about sleeping with the corpse. You've spoken about drinking the water, shaving of head. But aside that, are there other harmful practices that widows go through that people don't know about?
There are so many others, such as the late husband's brother, forcing himself that on the late brother's wife, either by sleeping with her or telling her that since the husband is no longer alive, that he's going to marry her. whether she likes it or not, whether he has a wife or not. Because sometimes they will be married and will still want to marry the brother's wife. And if she refuses, it will become a problem for the woman. They will start maltreating her in the family, especially those of us that remained in that family, that didn't go away, that didn't stop answering their names and so on. So some of us that remained there, they will start maltreating the woman because she refused the late husband's brother to have his way in her life, either to marry her or keep sleeping with her, And because maybe she doesn't have anything to do, she doesn't have a job or a business that she's doing, she can't take care of her children and so on, she may fall prey to those advances. She become vulnerable because she will want to answer the, do what the man wants so that he will be able to take care of the children or feed them or pay their school fees, which is very wrong.
But it seems as if, most of these stories around widowhood, it's all about, it's always the woman who is at a disadvantaged position where she does not have anything to do and the likes. But what about, widows who are financially stable, they are well educated? Do they also go through these things, or is it just those who are unfortunate to not have that much?
Well, sometimes those who are also well-to-do pass through such, experiences, but it's most rampant with those who do not have anything, because of the fact that they don't have anything to back them up, maybe financially and otherwise, and maybe from her family members could not help her in one way or another, they will become vulnerable. But those who have the money to take care of themselves, most times they don't really pass through such things. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's all depends on the person's financial stability.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's quite, So would you say now that there is a link between these practices or these things that are being done to widows and gender-based violence? Would you call them gender-based violence?
Well, yeah, it's part of gender-based violence, yeah, because you can imagine, we have men who loses their wives, but they don't pass through such things. So it's mainly upon the women. It's mainly upon the women. A man will die, maybe he might be the one that killed the husband, but they will not question him. But a woman will lose the husband, they will question it. So it's just mainly based on that female gender. Yeah.
Okay, so what about, the legal aspect of it? Because I know working with widows and having a foundation, you have had contact with some legal procedures when it comes to handling widows and their issues. So what are some of the, from, your encounters and your experience, what are some of the legal practices or some of the things that can be done legally to help these women?
Yeah, the things that can be done legally to help these widows is for them to speak out first, because a lot are trapped in silence. A lot don't speak out. That is why first we go to communities to advocate to them, to first know how to speak for themselves. Speak out. Don't allow yourself to die in silence, because that is the worst part of the whole thing. Then once they're able to speak out, then we take it up from there to know where and how to help them. Like I said earlier, we have legal practitioners that we are partnering with. We are collaborating with them. Once we have such cases, we involve them, we bring them in, then they will now take up from there. We have seen cases like, even apart from the husband's relations maltreating the woman, we've seen cases where even the woman's son and his wife, they are actually maltreating the woman.
The woman's son?
Honestly speaking. I won't mention the community. One of the places we went for our advocate visits, to sensitize to the widows. And to the glory of God, the woman spoke out. She told us how the son and the wife were maltreating her. They took over the property from her, took over her business from her. They were not even giving her. She was feeding from hand to mouth. They were maltreating her to the extent that she could not do anything. And to the glory of God, she was able to speak out. And we took the matter from there. And today, not only did she get back her business and her house, the son has to be giving her monthly allowances, because he's doing his own business, the wife is doing her own business. So why should they suffer the woman, his own mother? So now he gives not only that he gave back everything to her, they now give her monthly allowance. So that is the essence of our advocacy, is going for sensitizations in communities, so that they will be able to. A lot of them are dying in silence. They can't speak out because they don't know the person to speak to, and the person will take it up against them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, speaking of children, I mean, I'm stunned hearing that, a son can do this to his own mother. I mean, it's sort of hard to believe. But at the same time, we know that most of these things also have an effect on the children, particularly those who have younger children. So in what ways would you say that, children are affected by all of this, aside from losing their father, but also, what is being done to their mother as well?
Well, of course, first, mothers are more close to their children.
Yes.
I'm sorry to say that to the men out there. Yeah, but that's the truth, And the child seeing the mother being maltreated, it also affects them emotionally. It affects them emotionally. And that is why I want to advise the widows out there that no matter what you're facing through, never allow your emotions to becloud you to the extent that your children will feel the impact. Because when your emotions becloud the person and it affects the children, then coupled with the ones that they are seeing the family members of the husband maltreating them, it will not only that it will demoralize them, it will start changing their mindsets about life towards the way people treat them. It can turn a good child to a bad child. It can turn a good child to a bad child. Yeah. The child will start growing up with grudges, with hatred, and so on. And before you know it, they've started planning something against those people, even at that tender age. Then, if the woman, the widow herself, allows herself to become too vulnerable that she could not handle herself and starts living maybe a wayward lifestyle, it will also have an indelible mark on the children. In Igbo language, they will say, whatever the children are seeing, they're growing with them. So that's why the mother has to be extremely careful. The way she's living her life, carrying herself, and the way she allows whatever that is happening around her to affect her emotions so that she will not impact it on her children.
But that's quite difficult. I mean, when you're dealing with the loss and you're also dealing with all these external factors as well, don't you? I mean, it's quite difficult to contain everything and pretend or act like,
Well, being difficult, it all depends on you as an individual. Like my very self. Well, let me say, should I say, well, I'm proud to say that. No matter what I'm passing through today, you will never know from my expression. You will never know because I'm always wearing that my smiling face. Yes. I will never allow my emotions to weigh me down. Never. Because it's when you allow your emotions to weigh you down, then you will not think straight. You will not be able to be coordinated. You will not be able to know what to do at every given time. And because it's affecting you, it's affecting your children. And when you think about it and find out that no matter the situation, what you're passing through, if you allow it to affect you, it will not still solve the problem. So why not you try and pretend that there is no problem and move ahead and become more resilient and stronger? because that way you become more coordinated and more focused to know what to do to wriggle yourself out of these situations. And it's when those people around you that are trying to antagonize you see that you are very vulnerable, that they will keep on doing that. But when they see that you are resilient, that you are strong, that you can speak for yourself and say enough is enough, that they will stay off your back. Even your husband's people who are maltreating the person will stay off your back. And to cap it all, you now decide that no matter what, I will be strong and be on my feet and fend for myself, no matter how little, and fend for my children. When they see that you are actually doing something, that you're not dependent on them or anyone, they will not trample upon you. Let it be that it's once in a while that you go to ask for help. Let's do it yourself.
Yes.
It will make you stronger and not vulnerable.
And also help the children.
And help the children as well, because the children are looking up to you. If they see you keep begging or keep crying, it will also weaken them. They will think that it's a lifestyle. So they look up to you. So because of their sake, you have to shape yourself and know how to go on.
Yes, that's really true. And at the same time, talking about knowing how to move on and, being able to handle the situation. Let's talk about, how this affects the mental health of these women, because like you earlier mentioned, they go through a whole lot of things and it affects them both emotionally, psychologically, and mentally. So can you walk us through, some of the consequences, some of the mental health consequences, or how it affects them mentally, particularly when it comes to how they face stigma, or all these other things that you've mentioned, or even isolation, things like that. How does it affect their mental health?
Yeah, like I said earlier, it can only affect someone's mental health if you allow it to really bother you and weigh you down. Yeah, we are human beings.
Exactly.
Definitely it will weigh us down. Definitely it will affect us. Definitely we will be emotionally disturbed. But there is a limit to what we can allow ourselves to face. There is a limit to it's all about you talking to yourself. I've always loved this saying that, determination helps you to start and discipline helps you to finish. If you're really determined that you will never allow this situation to affect you or to weigh you down anymore, then you have to discipline yourself that whenever those things that really bothers you wants to crop in, you wave it off. Keep yourself busy. Even if you don't have anything doing at a particular time. At my any given leisure time, I don't sit idle to sleep or to just, no, I'd rather sit in front of the TV and watch
Keep
it.
yourself busy.
Before I'll watch 2 programs, I've slept off. Before you know it, it's the next day. I'll keep myself busy again with work or any other thing. So you don't allow yourself, even if you don't have any job doing, always be, even apart from sitting in front of the TV, I'll sit with my children, we discuss, we chat. We tell stories.
Yes.
Before they will tell you 1 or 2 stories, you have slept off. Try to create time for your children, for other things that will, occupy your mind so that you don't fall into depression. And learn how to speak out, most importantly. Speak out. And again, learn how to commune with God.
Yes.
Commune with God. With Him, all things are possible. Because if you put your hope and trust in man, they will disappoint you. But when you believe that with God all things are possible, that you can overcome this and overcome that, I tell you, you won't even know when you overcome them. So, very important, never allow the emotions to weigh us down, no matter how difficult it is.
Yes.
Just wear a smiling face all the time. Believe that that nothing mega, nothing is nothing. There is nothing is wrong. No matter, even if someone insulted you now, Maybe you went to ask for help and the person insulted you. Believe that the person did not insult you. If that is one of those things that you see in life. Because if you see it as one of those things that you see in life, you'll be able to move on. Even if you insulted me now, the next minute I don't even remember it, because it's when you think about those things that you become weighed down.
Exactly.
I will see it as one of those things in life. It's an experience and a stepping stone to achieving greater heights.
Yes.
That way you will smile. More, that is a stepping stone to achieving greater heights.
Yes, yes.
That is it.
That is very, very true. I like that. So now let's look at, what role do you think that religious leaders and traditional leaders play when it comes to encouraging or enabling these norms, or either enabling it or ending it, either one of the two? But what role do you think that they play?
Well, let me come to the traditional rulers. I don't think that I've actually seen any roles that play to end them, because if there is, I don't think all such practices, harmful widowhood practices, will still be in existence by now. Of course, we're in the 21st century. It should be eradicated by now. But they're not really actually doing anything. So to say, I'm sorry to say that. But seriously, if they're really doing something by now, they should be eradicated from the communities. Seriously. So, and I wouldn't say they're encouraging it. But then, if they're really doing something to end it, it should have been ended by now.
By now.
Yeah.
What about religious leaders? I mean, they definitely should have a role to play in this, one way or another.
They are supposed to be playing such roles to make sure that such practices are eradicated. But I'm sorry to also say that they're not really doing anything. Yeah, of course, because you can imagine if the widows are not being remembered in the church and only be remembered only Christmas periods. You remember there are widows in the church to give them few food items. Then what do you think that they can actually do to eradicate such things? Because I know that in churches we have what we call Women's Day and Youth Day, Gala Night for youth, men and husbands and wives. I've never heard where they talked about Gala Night for widows and stuff like that. They're hardly being remembered. But
if women are already, if there are, Women's Day, like you mentioned, I mean, the widows are a part of.
Oh, of course, they're supposed to be part of that. But then, you know how it is. If a widow cannot afford their uniform, they will be, they'll treat them as being, as nothing. If they cannot pay dues in the church, they see them as nothing. So what happens to them? That's why even in churches, any group, anywhere, there should be what we call widows, as in quotes, widows. Let it be the widows' thing, so that those that can afford can do for the ones that cannot afford. Those that cannot afford, nobody will look down on them.
But when you say let them have this widows group or widows thing, there are some women that you meet and they'll tell you, yes, I'm a widow, but I don't want that idea of, because I'm a widow, I'll be given some form of special attention or special treatment, maybe having a group where they say this is the widows group. What do you think about that?
Well, such people may be the ones that actually have enough for themselves. But even at that, when you have and you see your fellow widow does not have, why not you be part of what they're doing and help? Some of them do have connections. Some of them do have upper hands in the government. Why not you use your connection to, get some, job slots, opportunities for the widows, rather than isolating yourself. Then why not you help those that know Zoro, those that don't have it? Then you are just, you're very correct, because I know someone like that. When I told her that, she said, only a widow doing very well for herself. When I told her about my foundation, she said, maybe we are going from one place to other to beg for money, because that's the mental idea they have. I was just like, wow. Until with all your education and everything and your exposure, you are just saying this. So is that how you people categorize widows? Is that how you people see us? Is that the much you can think about us that all we do or care about is to go and beg for money. Let's assume that's what we are doing. Can't you help for them not to stop begging for money? Yes, can't you help so that they will stop begging for money? Because if we can actually, change our mindset towards certain things, the world will be a better place. Because we have this mindset of my own. If we can change from that my own mindset to our own mindset, wow, when it's good for me, let it be good for the other person. The world will be a better place.
Yeah.
If we have this, after all, these widows, they have family members who are doing very well. But they care about my own family. Let me take care of my own family. If they can imagine, like maybe they have 4 kids, and supposing they take one from their widowed sister and add, they will say it will be too much. Supposing you didn't have 4 kids and you had 5 kids, wouldn't you have been able to take care of them? So imagine yourself that your sister's son or daughter is equally your own biological son or daughter. It will be able to help. So if we can change our mindsets towards certain things, from especially my own mindset to our own mindset, it will be a better place for us.
Yes, and this thing you just said now, just brought up something in my mind when you said that this lady who is also a widow doing well for herself, but she does not want to identify with the widows. Now, it just made me wonder, do you think that women are also enablers of these harmful practices? Now, I'm not just talking about those that don't want to identify. I'm talking about even the women in the village, the Umuada, like you mentioned, and the like. So do you think that women are also part of the problem?
Of course,
of this
of course, because when it comes to the Umuadas, they carry it on their heads. Yeah, they're even the main people that will say the woman must sleep with the corpse, drink the water from the corpse after bathing the corpse and stuff like that. That women. Sometimes I'll be like, just let me use that Igbo adage again, that when it happens to someone else, it will seem as if it happened to a tree, that it didn't happen to someone. Because the person has not really experienced it, it's easy for them to carry out such practices.
Yes.
Don't forget that their own daughter or even themselves may face such problems in future. What of their daughters? Supposing they marry into another community where such practices are being done and it happens to her, how would they feel? But when they're carrying those activities, it beclouds them. They don't think straight because they don't remember any other thing except doing those things and fulfilling them.
So, but do you think it's a situation of because some women are like some widows who have experienced it, who are in the village and are also part of this Umada, they see it as the norm. It happened to me too. I did it too, so you should do it too, and the cycle continues.
So they're not seeing it as a kind of vengeance, just like we said earlier. Is it out of wickedness? Of course, it's out of wickedness.
All right. So now let's talk about what would you say, what kind of support system, because so far you've particularly spoken about the widows who are at a disadvantaged position, those who are not, who currently don't have what they are doing or don't have enough to sustain themselves and their children. So now what kind of support systems can be given to those women to support them, particularly when it comes to finances?
Yeah, well, the kind of support system I would want the widows to get is one, if the government can actually give provisions or opportunities to the NGOs, like our own NGO and other NGOs, they support the financial support or the economic support to do skills acquisitions for them, those that didn't maybe go to school and stuff like that, even those that went to school that don't have jobs. They can do skill acquisitions for them to learn one thing or another. Then economic support, with especially in terms of agriculture, it will be very good. Then also, I know that they have slots for job opportunities, and these slots mainly go to people who have, what I mean, godfathers. Yeah. Then if they can, just like I said earlier, that if we can have what we call a commissioner for widows affairs, it will really go a very long way. Because if they can bring out laws for job opportunities for widows and call it for widows, I'm sure that it can get down to the widows. Because sometimes, because we don't have people talking for us, we don't know who to meet and who to talk for us and so on. Not that we are not graduates, not that we are not learned, but because we don't have who and who matters in the society.
Yes.
Those opportunities will come and go. We won't have them. But if it's by, by merit, they can easily get something. Those that really went to school, they can get something doing. So if government can actually help to say that, okay, I'm bringing out these laws for widows for these particular job opportunities, it will really go a long way. I'm sure it will get to, if not to all the widows, but quite a number of them. Then skill acquisitions for so many other things, and economic agriculture. Give them the opportunities to learn one or two things and, empower them financially.
Yes, yeah, that's a good idea. And also, earlier on we spoke about the role women play in these things, whether they are part of the problem. Do you think men also enable this entire thing that we're talking about? Do you think they have a role to play as well?
Of course they do have.
What role do they have to play?
Of course they do have, because they are the initiators. And the women will not carry it on top of their heads.
How do you mean?
Of course now. Of course they will be the ones like, let me use an instance, the brother to the deceased person will now go to the mother and tell them that it's this woman that killed my brother. You people should do this. And they will initiate the move. And the mother will not carry it on top of their heads.
All right. So just to wrap it up now, what message would you give to a widow who is watching, who is feeling, abandoned, or who is feeling like the entire process is so much for her to carry? What would you say to the person?
Well, I want to tell the widows out there, at least when you look at me, it should be an encouragement first and foremost, yes, because I want to tell us that we are only widowed, we are not widowed. You have to keep on being strong, keep on being resilient, because if you allow yourself to be, more emotionally down, it will not do any good to us but harm. So I want you to stand up. You widow that is listening to me today, stand up on your feet and fight, no matter what the situation is. I'm sure that little by little, it's not an easy thing. You will be able to overcome. Keep on being resilient. Keep on being resilient. Keep on being resilient. At the end of the day, the sky will be your starting point and not the limit.
All right, that's a lovely way to end this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your experience and your thoughts as well.
Thank you very much.
All right, and with that, we'll go on a short break, and when we return, Gender Perspective continues. Do stay with us.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching Gender Perspectives on Signature TV. And we just finished, with our guest. And after hearing from her about the real challenges that widows face, it's time to confront some of the most persistent myths that continue to fuel this stigma and discrimination. We know that, widowhood is surrounded by cultural narratives that are often outdated, inaccurate, and are deeply harmful, from beliefs that associate widows with bad luck and misfortune to the idea that their lives lose value without a husband. So now, these myths not only misrepresent the truth, but they also uphold systems of inequality and silence. So now let's take a closer look at the myths and facts behind widowhood.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
All right, now as we come to the end of today's episode of Gender Perspectives, one thing is clear: widowhood is not just a personal loss, it is an issue rooted in structural inequality, cultural stigma, and legal neglect. Now, we've explored the harmful practices that widows face, we've challenged the myths that continue to marginalize them, and we've heard, from our guest, who is a passionate advocate working towards justice and reform. But awareness is only the first step, because we know that real change requires ongoing conversation, policy action, and a collective responsibility. Well, thank you for joining us, because with that, we've come to the end of today's episode of the program. Remember to follow us on all our social media platforms. We are live 24/7 on YouTube, and you can watch us on SLTV Channel 265. And until next time, I am Uchenna Chimdi Oluoha. Enjoy the rest of your day.